I'm not going to pause at all. If the important thing is Folio, you really need reporting for all sorts of different things. You need it to understand what's happening, what to report out to find problems, etc. We're going to focus initially on MetaDB, and then we're going to move through a number of other reporting solutions. And I want to mention that there are a lot of people, a lot of different presentations at this conference of people implementing different varieties and different mixes of these reporting solutions. And I encourage you, if you're interested in reporting, to go hear all of them because they will have different reasons why they chose different options. So. Why not just run SQL queries against the Folio database? Well, there are a couple of reasons for that. And the first is there's no record is kept of old data. You also might not know SQL, which is another issue we'll talk about later. All of the data is in JSON, so queries have to transform it. The records are highly denormalized with data fragments split across tables. And it can be expensive to run reports in terms of performance applications if you're hitting directly against the server, especially if it's doing things like breaking apart the JSON into columns that you can use for queries. Folio stores its data in a Postgres database, and the change records are written to a replication slot, and they are harvested by MetaDB to continuously update. Old versions of change registers are retained in MetaDB and accessible via historical tables, and Sharon will talk about those more a little bit later. Each record coming into MetaDB has its JSON blob extracted and transformed into SQL level fields. And mark records are stored as opaque blobs in Folio, are expanded into queryable tables, which is a very powerful thing. Everyone loves their mark. I do too. And MetaDB basically runs periodic tables, queries to generate derived tables, which have been created by the reporting SIG to simplify reporting when you have a lot of joins that are common. A good example is the user records in MetaDB's user groups table have the patron group ID, but also a group column containing the name of the group the user belongs to, instead of the UUID, which is what's in the data. All right, and now I'm going to turn it over to Sharon to talk a little bit more about.
There's a question in chat about no old data is stored. Can you define
Welcome,
old?
everybody. You're here because you're interested in Folio reporting. So as the SIG convener, Scott and I want to be sure that you feel totally comfortable reaching out to us on Slack or here at the conference over email anytime if you have questions about reporting. Also, I encourage you to either attend yourself the Folio reporting SIG meeting or send somebody from your institution. We cover all things reporting, things that are data warehouse software, which we're talking about now, the MetaDB product, and also reporting within the Folio environment as well. And the products that work together, Folio and MetaDB work together via the reporting app. So we talk about all things reporting. In the reporting SIG, we have presentations from all over the project to keep you informed. And we also drive priorities for reporting through Product Council using the Community Priorities Dashboard. So I encourage you to just get involved with us if you're interested in data stuff. All right, so getting started with building reports. There's a lot to this. I'm just going to give you the highlights. So the first thing you want to do is choose a reporting application, get connected to your reporting database. We're going to talk about the table structure and getting output. So this is a very short session, so we're going to have to go a little fast, but you can, again, just reach out to us if you have any questions about how to do this. So the most common reporting application that people use for data warehouse implementation with MetaDB, between Folio and MetaDB, is dbeaver. And this allows you to develop queries, to deliver reports. There are different versions of dbeaver. The enterprise, there's a community version that's free, and anyone can download it anytime. And dbeaver Enterprise is pretty inexpensive and comes with a few more features. Also, Tableau and Power BI are growing in popularity for delivering data dashboards. And so if you're interested in creating visualizations of folio data, we have many institutions that are doing that right now. So it's an exciting area to deliver data in. You can hook up Tableau or Power BI to your MetaDB reporting database and use all of the data elements that are available in Folio today. Any reporting application that can use Postgres, a Postgres database works with MetaDB. Okay. So the MetaDB table structure is divided up into Folio application schemas. If you look over on the right side of the screen, you can see a literal snapshot from a MetaDB reporting database with different areas of functionality throughout the Folio project. Folio circulation, we've got orders, we've got inventory, all of that. So that's how the tables in the MetaDB reporting database are organized. The derived directory has derived tables that are deriving data from these tables that already exist. Why are they there? To pull data elements that make sense to go together. So for instance, we have a very popular derived table called loans to items. How many reports can you build with that? Very nice. And many, many other examples of that. Those get updated. The tables in MetaDB get updated continuously. However, the derived tables only get updated once nightly. So you have to consider that if you're building a report where people need information instantaneously. We have some of our accounting folks who are like, no, I need to know right up to the minute, or what have you. So just something to think about. MetaDB has all of the MARC data broken out into columns. This is a remarkable achievement because if you all know MARC, which many of you do, it's really complicated. This makes it easier to use SQL to filter in your SQL queries against the data in Folio using the MetaDB tables. So MARC is there. When you first set up your MetaDB environment, each user has their own individual schema for their account, so where they can store their own reports or tables, or you can bring tables that you have created for local information into MetaDB easily and use those in queries as well. We've also at Cornell migrated from Voyager in 2020, 2021, right when we were implementing, and we saved all the important tables that we had. So we can actually report today on information going back to the year 2000, even though we implemented in 2021 because we have our Voyager tables integrated into MetaDB. Talk to me about that if you want to know more. So you can bring your legacy data as long as it can be converted into Postgres. Okay, so this is the slide that everybody hates. So we're just going to get through it. But it is an important slide because later when you're trying to write queries in MetaDB, if you're doing that for the first time, you're going to thank me. So each MetaDB application area in these schemas that we're looking at, for instance, folio _ inventory, right? It's going to have items, holdings, instances, all that stuff. Okay. Each schema for each has a table for each function, right? So we have here, folio circulation is the schema, and then in there is a check-in table. there are different versions of the table that do different things. Once you learn that, then you've got it for writing your MetaDB reports. So the important thing is that you've got main tables. That's where the data stays kind of in the original format. Lots of JSON-B coming right out of Folio in there. There's a reason for it. There are a couple of columns that are transformed, but most of the data is still kind of caught up in JSON-B. There will be fewer and fewer of these kinds of tables as MetaDB is developed to improve ETL such that you will have columns that you can report on, because anybody who's writing reports knows it's much easier if you can look at your data and just see columns and then report on that. So the other two tables to know about, the current and historical transform data, okay? So those are tables that are always ending with underscore, underscore T, underscore, underscore. Think of it as the table with wings. So here we have folio circulation, check-in, underscore, underscore T, underscore, underscore. Okay, and this has transformed data, transformed into columns. So if you look at these data points, we have item ID, item location ID, status, occurred time, date time, all that stuff. So those are nicely transformed for you into data columns that you can see, so you can write your query and say, yeah, I want that information. That has both current and historical data, because MetaDB records historical transactions in addition to giving you access to your current transactions. If you just want the current data, which is going to be the most common scenario, so you want to look at current loans, you want to look at current orders, et cetera, then you're going to be looking at the transformed current table, which always ends with underscore, underscore T. T is for transformed. So that naming convention will carry you through all of your queries. And again, if you have any questions, just reach out to us. But this is the most common type of table you're going to use in your queries. So that's important to know if you're just getting started with MetaDB, you're interested in what do I have to know. That's how it's organized. Okay, congratulations. Or first, are there any questions about the table structure?
There's a
Yes.
question in chat.
Right. Okay, so the question is what is in the transform table came from the JSON table. It came from the JSON, yes. Why do we have the JSON? Because not everything's been transformed. So we have the raw JSON available in a table as well, so that if there's that one missing data element that hasn't been transformed, you can still use a JSON extract path statement to pull it into your query. And I'll show you that in a minute. Any other questions? Okay, now I can say congratulations. Oh no, there's one more. Yes, from chat. Thank you so much. We have so many. Okay, yeah, let me repeat that for folks. So let's say your library doesn't have a data analyst on staff. You know, we're very friendly people, so you really should consider hiring one. But beyond that, no, that is definitely the case for many libraries. I can now say, after many years, that we have so many canned report examples that you can draw from to start learning how to do this. And we have a wonderfully supportive community, and we have the FOLIO reporting SIG. So we can help you get started if you want to learn. We have a lot of people at our library who are not data analysts, but who work in, say, metadata or cataloging, whatever, and in finance all over the library, that are not technically data analysts, but they're certainly willing to jump in and use reporting tools because they find them so valuable. So you don't have to be a data analyst to jump into this. Any other questions? Okay, congratulations. You've gotten beyond the most annoying slide. So this is, it's all downhill from here. All right, these are just to go over the naming conventions that I mentioned. So you'll have your application schema and then the table and then underscore T. That's the table that stores current records that have been transformed so into nice columns for you. And the other table that you'll want to focus on, if you want to bring in any data that is historical, then you can use the table with wings underscore T underscore, and again, it's in the application schema. So for instance, if we had the loan table, that's in the FOLIO circulation schema with loan underscore T being the current transform table and loan underscore T underscore being the current and historical records. All right. Why do we have to have those two underscores? I get this question all the time. Each table has to be unique in a database. So the software has been developed over many years. And so we're at the point where we have to have some kind of a naming convention that allows for uniqueness. Also, there are older versions of the software that have been accommodated. It's backwards compatible for that LDP software. And so it's been necessary to use that format. Oop. Okay, so just a quick example of how would I get records from current loans using this table. So just, let's say we want to do a count of IDs from FOLIO circulation loan underscore T, then we would just do a simple statement like that. Of course, you'd probably build out a more complicated, longer query, but just to show you how that works, that would be getting current records from a current transform table, and then getting current and historical records from a current and historical table, the table with wings. Then you would use this statement. So select, count the records, and then just point to the current and historical table. So of course, the total count for current and historical should be higher. So feel free to try this on if you have a MetaDB database, and that's the way that these work. All right, now a little more into MARC. So MARC is supported, and it is the MARC table, MARC underscore T, which is current and transform. That's going to be the most common table that you use for MARC, is in the FOLIO source record schema. And so this is just a quick example of how you would use MARC data. This is going to find records with English in the 008 MARC language field. So feel free to try these at home. And so we don't have time for demos, but that's an example of how you would use MARC. And that is just used extensively across many libraries and essential for filtering down to the data that's needed. What if this goes back to you're nodding your head with the JSON data array. So for the data that's still kind of locked up in JSON data arrays, you can still get at it. And also you can extract current records. Oh, sorry, this is to extract current records from a data array. With each table, there are fields that can be used for general filtering. So if you don't want to use the current table, but you want to do your filtering through SQL, you can do that. There's more on that in the guide. And your output for dbeaver allows you to export to CSV. And then, of course, you can just open that right up in Excel. And dbeaver Enterprise allows you to export right to Excel. Then, of course, Tableau, Power BI, those are going to be all, depending on how you set up your dashboard, you can get data out of those as well. All right, and this, I just encourage you to download the presentation if you're interested in more of this, or reach out to us. There's extensive documentation on the MetaDB software. We have report examples from the reporting. Somebody was asking about canned reports. So this is for that person. We have report samples in the reporting SIG on the FOLIO Analytics GitHub repository. We also have this magical page, which is institutions that have opened up their GitHub report repositories to share with the rest of you, the FOLIO community, the reports that they have been writing all these years so that you can have some nice examples. This right here is gold. So we have gotten many thanks from many institutions for making this available so that they can get started in MetaDB or another reporting tool just using SQL quickly. This just has a bunch of examples of reports from all these institutions, and feel free to peruse that. Okay. So the FOLIO Analytics GitHub repository is where the MetaDB software that is developed by the FOLIO reporting community is created. We create the derived tables and update them, and we provide, we have a wiki with a lot of examples of how to do reporting and what's important for joining different kinds of tables and lots of nerdy data analytics stuff. So I encourage you to go to the link there to see more about this. Here's an example of, this is just a screenshot from the GitHub repository and all of the resources that we have there. We also have a wiki. I'll just jump there a second. And I always like to mention that Stefan Dombeck from Leipzig University has contributed extensively. I've contributed a little bit, but this has cookbooks, which are sort of recipes for building your queries against the reporting database. So quite a bit of information here about how to start building reports, how to make joins. You know, one of the hardest things to understand when you jump into reporting for FOLIO is the data model. And that is really the heart of mastering reporting, is looking at the way the tables are constructed, the data relationships, and building that data model in your head so that you can build reports well and make sure that they are accurate and useful. So the cookbook really helps you understand the data model. Also just using, of course, reporting will help you with that. Another section here is the user-defined function. This is examples for the reporting app. You build queries for that, for the reporting app that is available in FOLIO to run a report on your MetaDB reporting database a little differently. And we're going to talk about, Scott's going to talk about that shortly. So. Okay. Actually, right now.
And I see we have less than 20 minutes left, and so we'll probably try to be very quick on these next things to allow more time for questions at the end as well. So, and yes, I'm going to talk about the reporting app and using it next. About setting it up, how to writing queries and running queries will be, again, very brief here. So this is really, we'll be sharing the slides. You'll be able to reference them later. In settings, you have to deal with record limits, how many defaults for display and export, which tables can be accessed, because you can remove tables from access in the reporting app, whether you're using MetaDB or LDP, the predecessor. And you can link to as many GitHub repositories as you want. As far as, I don't know if there is a limit on that, but yeah. So you could link to the GitHub repositories we showed you for the libraries. You would link to them and they could be available in your reporting app. This will be very quick. To writing reports for the FOLIO reporting app, you just need two files. you need a SQL file that's running the query and a JSON file that builds the display in the reporting app of the query, the UI, so that people can see it. Then there's a documentation file that we highly recommend. It's really useful. They're stored in your own repository, and they're not part of the software. The other important thing if you're doing that is all the files must have the same name. Only the file type is different. So .sql, .json, .md. This SQL file contains a user-defined function, is a custom function that can be stored in the database. Postgres has built-in functions like max, minimum. You can create your own function. There's a cookbook that Sharon was just talking about that you can reference. The JSON file, as I said, defines the web form within the Folio app. So that's what displays it. You can enter parameter values in that as well to allow your users to enter variable information. The file also contains the field names that are needed to map the values to the web form. Going to do a quick thing here of looking at the various things within the reporting app. There's build query, load query, and run report. Build query is like this, and basically it's allows you to create a build to run a query against the BetaDB tables directly. So in this case, it's set up to go to Folio Finance, and the table schema is Folio Finance, and the table is ledger __ T with ledger status active, etc. So, but it's only, you cannot link. There's no Boolean linking here or joins here, so you can only look at that. You can load query, which is also only use a build query. So that's that you've saved. And again, those are only against a single table. There are plans to allow Boolean searches, I think, in the future, but that's still under discussion. And then run report is the powerful thing in reporting app. And that's where you can access all these reports that you've created and stored in your GitHub for whatever is there is available. And so you can see here, there's one that's count loans and renewals, missing items, but you could have other things there. And then I'm going to turn over to Sharon now. Yeah. And we have about 5 minutes.
Okay, I'm going to go yes. Sure. Not at this time. There is interest in making that possible. Not as far as I'm aware, it's not set up for that at this time. But there is interest. So I would encourage you to talk with Catherine Barger, Bargar, for more information on Slack. Just reach out, and Five Colleges is doing a lot of development for LD Lite. So. Oh, sorry. Oh, just one sec. Oh, I'm sorry. Is there going to be developed for the reporting app to work with LD Lite? And there's interest. It's not there at this time. It's not available at this time, as far as I'm aware, but there is interest in that. Yes. How do you link the GitHub repositories? Okay, I'm just going to show you. This is how you hook up to your MetaDB. It's all in the Folio reporting app settings. And, we don't have very much time. Please reach out to me or Scott, and we're happy to walk you through this. So if you take a look at these slides, you'll see this is how you point to the particular GitHub repository right within Folio. And Mark. Okay, when the UDF is created, is it available to all users or
Is it only available to the individual user?
or just the individual users? It's available on your GitHub repository. So whoever has access to your GitHub repository can see the UDF. It is also available when you look at the reporting app interface. You can click to see the SQL behind that particular report. So UDF, user-defined functions. So you have to write the report as a function. So there's a lot of detail there, but again, we don't have a lot of time, but it's pretty cool. So what this means is you can use this run report feature to, from Folio, have your users be able to click on a report and run it on your MetaDB environment. Any report that you can write on MetaDB, which is everything, all the data tables. So pretty exciting. I encourage you to explore it more if you're interested. And we're gonna go, and then you want to set the appropriate permissions. So we're gonna breeze through. There's a bunch of documentation right here. This is a powerful slide right here. So I did a lot of digging for this. So there's a bunch of documentation in this slide. We'll have these slides up before the end of the conference, so you can download them. Okay, so we just have a section on Tableau. And basically you can use Tableau to connect to your MetaDB environment and create dashboard visualizations. That's just the interface for signing in. And there's a lot more information about that, but we're running out of time. So these are just some dashboards. If you want to see some more dashboards, please feel free to reach out to me for Tableau. And we have a couple institutions, TAMU and University of Colorado, who are doing fantastic stuff with Power BI. And I think University of Missouri as well is doing some Power BI stuff. So, woo! So please feel free to reach out if you want to see those. And there we go.
I reached out to Catherine Barger for some more information on LD Lite. We just recently had a presentation from that group, and she's the product owner. And I encourage you to look at the slides and look at the vision. But basically, all users of Folio have access to their data regardless of their budget or hosting provider is the focus. There are some questions about this earlier. And the charter link is here. But it's basically self-hosted. It's lightweight alternative MetaDB. And it does not, it still can be difficult if you're running complicated queries, but if you're a smaller institution especially, it's very easy. And Joshua Lambert will be talking about it today at 3:30. So, and here's some resources that will be present in the slideshow. And the list app. This is almost the end of our.
Yeah. List app is new on the scene, but development is moving fast. So this is available through the Folio interface. If you haven't tried it, please do. It allows you to create lists of Folio records filtered by criteria that you set, and you can save those and run them, and then download that information to your computer to be used. And so this is just a screenshot of how to use that. And you can use the same list over and over again. You can save it privately or share it with other users. You have to refresh it each time you use it if you want the latest data. Sometimes you want to keep the old data, but most people want to refresh that data. And it has increasing functionality for building queries by choosing fields, operators, and values. And you can edit your query later under actions if you need to. And I'm seeing a lot of nodding heads, so good job on those who have familiarized themselves. You can also, in your output, specify which columns you want to show or not show. So lots of exciting development there. Just a quick note about what's covered. So in Ramson's, where we are now, we've got inventory, loans, organizations, purchase order lines, users. Sunflower is going to have a lot more on top of what you see in Ramson's. You're going to have budgets, fund with ledger, invoice lines, purchase all of these things here in Sunflower. Vouchers, voucher lines, a lot more finance being developed for Sunflower. What's a big difference is that LISAP is currently limited to certain data areas, but it will be extended in future versions as development continues. It doesn't include MARC at this time. In MetaDB, you can report on all data areas in Folio, including MARC. So it's a data warehouse, so it's all there. In-app reports.
We started slow, but we're ending fast. We are in-app reports are, and I'm going to cover this very quickly. They're basically apps that you could do within reports you can do within the apps. Export of data is basically. It's usually as CSV, occasionally as PDF, and it's usually done in the actions in the upper right corner of things like this: finance, invoices, licenses, orders, users, circulation log. These can be part of your reporting solutions as well, and things that people can use quickly. And I'll just skip this. Groups. And just a quick thing, the FOLIO reporting community, we have some information here about us, and that we create and maintain drive tables. We cover reporting broadly, not just MetaDB, although we certainly have focused a lot of effort on writing drive table queries and that sort of thing. The reporting SIG home is contained here, and we encourage anyone to join at any time, even just for 1 week, to ask a question or to send us a message in Slack to us. And it's all here. And we'll send it off. And there are some Slack channels. Those are in bold are the ones we recommend joining if you're just getting started or just don't know where to begin. And you can certainly join, and feel free to ask any questions. People are always there to answer them, usually. And with that, thank you. Are there any questions? We have about 5 minutes. So.
Repeat the question. Is support for consortia on MetaDB roadmap?
We would have to talk with Index Data about consortial support. I know that that's definitely on their radar, but I can't give you an update on that. I would encourage you to talk with Mike Gorell. He did an update today on software development, but yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have the latest on consortial support for MetaDB software. Next question.
I know that there were some issues sometimes with MetaDB not getting updates to Folio schema that caused reports to break. How do you feel like things are working now? Do you think that some of that has been smoothed out? Are there things that sort of the Folio project could do to make that work better?
Can I answer that? Okay. All right. So, you know, Folio gets developed and data fields get changed, and we are downstream from that. So you know what the downstream gets? We get surprises. And so we would love more effort into, or just pointing us to find the right things. Maybe we don't know where these things are, but Folio release notes. I know that there are videos that you can watch on the whole Folio thing. Often we don't have time to watch all of that stuff. And so if we had release notes, we could look to see what data fields have come in and what changes have been made so that we can make those changes in reporting. Really, really important. Yes, stuff does break. It's not that bad. We figure it out quickly when data fields change and queries have to be updated. But if we had more information from release notes, it would be helpful.
So just a question about the future of kind of derived table. So now we this is current transport.
We are continuing to support the derived tables for the moment, but we don't know, some of them will cease to be essential as the transformation of the data into MetaDB continues. And it's currently about 80% of the data elements are transformed completely. As it gets closer, there will be fewer derived tables. The only ones that are more likely to be maintained are those that are more efficient, where you're pulling together lots of disparate data at once. The derived tables also are not current. They're only updated overnight. So I see there's another question here.
Thank you.
So, yeah, this is a question from online. Can a user create a dangerous query in the lists app, or are there adequate guardrails? Like, how do I avoid breaking Folio in ignorance? Has it been pen tested, etc.?
That's a great question. You know, it depends on what you mean by dangerous, but I don't know is my answer on that one. I don't know if Scott knows, or if we have somebody who's got more information about the background of Lists app.
I can provide an answer for the list. Yeah. It has been pen tested, and it is being pen tested on a regular basis. And in terms of creating dangerous queries, there are some mechanisms that provide protection against having runaway queries, for example. Excuse me.
Thank you so much, Mark. That's great. Yeah. Other questions?
Do you see the change to Eureka as the underlying structure for Folio changing anything for MetaDB, and how are you planning to address that?
You want me to take that?
I think or maybe Mike should take that.
So we have a MetaDB data privacy work group that just started. And so we're looking at permissions, roles, security for MetaDB. And that includes, you know, using permissions from the reporting app. So that is definitely all being considered in those groups. And what we're working on are development proposals to provide the best experience that we can for our users via those groups. Does that
answer? Yeah, it's a good question.
You're curious about permissions? Oh, the Eureka change, yeah.
Yeah, I can probably answer that. Yeah.
So,
and I see Olamide is here, so Olamide can keep me honest. But no, I mean, I don't think it should continue to work the same way. Basically, the way MetaDB works is it monitors for database changes, and it sends those database changes to the MetaDB tables. The structure of MetaDB tables is not going to change.
MetaDB is separate from Folio as a platform for holding data. So that's going to, Eureka, I mean, it's impacted, it's really complicated, but it's impacted because what you do in Folio impacts the data in MetaDB. So I think the Eureka changes will impact Lists app and Reporting app. And as the data comes from Reporting app, the permissions that are used to allow people to use reports there, you know, will need to be guided by Eureka.
And I think we're beyond time now.
We can, I'm happy to
We-
stay if
we
you
can
want to,
stay.
yeah, did you
I
have
just
a
want to
reporting
give
question?
people a chance to, because it's
Okay.
3:15.
Okay,
Thank you, everyone.
thanks, everybody.